Across our planet, a silent and profound change is underway, largely unnoticed. It is not a story of grand projects or human intervention, but one of quiet retreat and natural reclamation. All around the world, tracts of land once tilled and harvested by human hands are being left to their own devices. People are moving, drawn to the bright lights and opportunities of cities, leaving behind the fields that once sustained them. On a scale that is difficult to comprehend, nature is slowly, patiently moving back in. We are talking about an area of some 400 million hectares of former agricultural land, now abandoned. That is a vast expanse, a territory almost half the size of Australia, quietly returning to the wild. This astonishing phenomenon represents one of the greatest opportunities of our time. It is a chance, offered to us by the land itself, to help heal our planet's climate. The process of natural regeneration is a testament to the resilience of life on Earth. As ecosystems recover on their own, they follow a path perfected over millions of years. The first to arrive are often the grasses, wildflowers. Their roots begin breaking up compacted soil and creating pathways for air and water. The pioneers stabilize the ground and build up a layer of organic matter as they die back each season. This initial stage creates the perfect conditions for the next wave of life. Birds, small mammals arrive, attracted by seeds and insects, and they bring seeds from the surrounding landscape, tucked in fur or droppings. Soon, tougher, woodier plants begin to appear. Brambles, hawthorn. Other shrubs form thorny thickets. These thickets create natural fences that protect tender young tree saplings. These thickets are not just nurseries for the future forest. They are bustling communities. Insects, birds, small mammals. When we plant a forest, we often use a limited palette, choosing just a few species, planting them in neat, orderly rows. But nature's blueprint is complex and chaotic. Spontaneous, natural regeneration creates a rich tapestry of life. Species that arrive are perfectly suited to the local climate, suited to the soil, suited to the unique conditions of that place. They are native species evolved over millennia. Their return signals true ecological recovery. This is not just about plants. Vegetation returns, and so does the entire web of life. Insects arrive to pollinate new flowers. Insects arrive to feed on leaves. The boom in insects feeds birds. The boom in insects feeds bats. The boom in insects feeds spiders. Birds drop seeds from fruits they've eaten. New plant species take hold. Small mammals burrow, aerating and enriching soil. Every creature plays a part in an ancient choreography. Natural recovery builds resilience. These regenerating lands are not just a haven for wildlife, they are also powerful allies in our fight against climate change. For centuries, intensive agriculture has been releasing carbon into the atmosphere. Every time a field is plowed, carbon that was stored in the soil is exposed to the air and oxidizes, becoming carbon dioxide. The continuous cycle of planting, fertilizing, harvesting, depletes the soil, turning what should be a carbon reservoir into a carbon source. But when a field is abandoned, this process is thrown into reverse. The land begins to act like a giant sponge, steadily drawing carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere and storing it once more. The first place this carbon is stored is in the plants themselves. Fast-growing grasses absorb carbon dioxide through photosynthesis. Shrubs absorb carbon dioxide through photosynthesis, and trees absorb carbon dioxide through photosynthesis, using it to build their leaves, stems, roots. The return of nature to these abandoned lands has another profound and vital benefit. It helps to heal our planet's water cycles. A field that has been repeatedly plowed and compacted for agriculture often behaves like a paved surface. The soil is dense and hard, with little capacity to absorb moisture. When heavy rain falls, the water cannot soak in. Instead, it rushes across the surface, carrying with it precious topsoil and agricultural pollutants. This rapid runoff can overwhelm streams' rivers, leading to sudden, destructive floods downstream. Then in the dry months that follow, those same streams may run low or dry up completely, as there is no stored groundwater to replenish them. But as a field rewilds, its relationship with water is completely transformed. The ground becomes a living sponge, The growing network of roots from grasses, shrubs, trees creates a maze of tiny channels, opening up the compacted soil and allowing rainwater to penetrate deep underground. The accumulating layer of leaf litter, organic matter on the surface, acts like a mulch, slowing the flow of water and giving it more time to soak in rather than run off. Small dips and hollows in the uneven ground become temporary pools, wetlands, holding water back and releasing it slowly over days, weeks. This sponge effect has a powerful regulatory impact on entire river systems. It dramatically reduces the risk of flooding during intense storms by lowering the peak flow of water into rivers. Hydrological models have shown that converting even a portion of a catchment area to woodland can cut the height of a flood crest by a measurable amount. Perhaps the most joyful and visible outcome of this quiet reclamation is the return of biodiversity. An abandoned field does not simply become a forest. It evolves into a rich and varied mosaic of habitats. Open grassland, dense thorny scrub, sunny glades, collections of young trees, and damp hollows where water gathers. This structural complexity is precisely what so many of our wild species need to thrive. It offers a multitude of niches, providing food, shelter, and breeding grounds for an astonishing variety of life, from the smallest insects to the largest mammals. It is in this variety that the true richness of a healthy ecosystem is found. These recovering landscapes also play a crucial role as wildlife corridors. In a world fragmented by roads, cities, and intensive agriculture, these strips and patches of wild land provide vital connections between isolated pockets of nature. They allow animals to move safely across the wider landscape, to find mates, to search for new food sources, and, crucially, to shift their ranges in response to a changing climate. As temperatures rise, many species will need to move to higher latitudes or altitudes to survive. These naturally regenerating corridors can provide the pathways they need to make that journey, helping to prevent local extinctions and maintain genetic diversity. This story of natural recovery is not just about land and wildlife, people, culture, economics. For a farmer, a field is not just a piece of ground. It is a source of livelihood, a family legacy, a fundamental part of their identity. To see land that was once productive, lie fallow can be perceived as a sign of failure or neglect, and the idea of abandonment can carry a heavy sense of loss and even shame. We cannot ignore this human dimension. Any successful strategy for embracing natural regeneration must also respect the people who live on and from the land, and offer them a new and positive vision for the future. The exciting truth is that rewilding can be a powerful engine for a new kind of rural economy. The value of a piece of land no longer has to be measured solely by the tons of grain or liters of milk it produces. A healthy, functioning ecosystem provides a huge range of services that are immensely valuable to society, and we are now learning how to put a price on them. A regenerating forest that is storing carbon, for instance, can generate income through the sale of certified carbon credits. A landscape teeming with biodiversity can earn payments for protecting and enhancing nature. This creates new, diversified revenue streams for landowners. Beyond these market-based mechanisms, wilder landscapes open up new opportunities for nature-based tourism. People are increasingly seeking authentic experiences in beautiful natural surroundings. A farm that incorporates rewilding areas can offer wildlife watching, guided walks, educational tours. This can provide jobs for local guides, support for local inns and restaurants, a market for local crafts and produce. Some economic studies have shown that when you add up all these new value streams, carbon, biodiversity, water regulation, tourism, the total economic value of a restored landscape can, in some cases, exceed what it could generate from conventional farming alone, especially on marginal or less productive land. As we begin to recognize the immense value locked within these regenerating lands, we must also be acutely aware of the risks. Whenever nature becomes a commodity, there is a danger of exploitation. The rising interest in carbon markets and biodiversity credits could fuel a phenomenon known as green grabbing. This is where powerful corporations or outside investors acquire vast tracts of land for conservation projects or carbon projects, often displacing the local communities who have lived there for generations and who depend on that land for their survival. We must ensure the quest to heal the planet does not come at the expense of its most vulnerable people. The issue of food security is a real concern. The world's population is still growing, and many argue every available hectare is needed to produce food. However, much abandoned land is marginal. It is steep, infertile, or dry. Farming these areas often requires heavy inputs of fertilizer and water and yields little in return. It often makes more sense to focus agriculture on the most fertile lands using sustainable intensification, while allowing marginal lands to return to nature. To navigate these risks, the rights of local and indigenous communities must be central to any rewilding strategy. These communities are not obstacles to conservation. They are its most important partners. Policies must ensure they have secure tenure and that they are primary beneficiaries of new economic opportunities. Decisions about land use must be made with their free, prior, and informed consent. Payments for ecosystem services should flow directly to them, rewarding them as stewards of the land. This is ethically right and more effective. Conservation succeeds when it has community support. We must guard against creating vast, people-free wildernesses. The goal is not to push people out, but to find ways for people and nature to coexist. The message is one of profound and simple hope. Nature has a phenomenal capacity to heal itself. These 400 million hectares of abandoned farms are not a sign of failure. They are a hidden land bank for the recovery of our planet's climate, its water systems, and its spectacular wildlife. This is a solution that is low cost, high impact, ready to be deployed at a vast scale. By allowing these fields to grow wild, we can store immense amounts of carbon, reduce the risk of floods, and bring back species from the brink. In doing so, we can also forge a new, more sustainable economy for our rural landscapes. To unlock this potential, we need the courage to change how we think about the land. We must move beyond measuring value only in terms of the crops it can produce and learn to count the value of the life it supports and the resilience it provides. For this to happen, policymakers and investors must take clear and decisive action. First, make passive, spontaneous natural regeneration the default for marginal lands. It is cheaper, more effective,